Yeah, item C, we did get a little refund check back from the workers' comp policy last year, $6,000 some, which is always better than an assessment of additional funding needed. They did send us back our, I guess our current, going into 2014 to check our wage and salary and see if it's going to, go up. I haven't got a quote on that yet, but those are already approved to do that back in the fall. The only other thing that we've got that we typically do at this meeting is as of December 31st, our current Benny cards will be kind of frozen as far as they won't be able to make 2014 charges on the current Benny card account balances, so we pre-fund the first half of the plan year for the employees. So just need a motion to.
Since we do that, would we please? I would like for us to really consider about funding the full amount. There's some employees, talking to several employees that's got doctor bills. They have to come up with the rest of that money, and I know in July we always fund that. It's in the budget, and we're planning on funding that as well. I just think it would be better for the employees we've got some, we know here, we having one of them, where the donations have been accepted. Yeah, if we fund that, at least they only have to come up with the remaining balance, where before they've got to fund, they've got to come up with the remaining of the balance. They're only going to use what they're going to use anyway. So if we put it all in now, the employee actually gets the benefit of the Benny card. So,
well, two things there. One is that, and I understand what you're asking, because I can see to where they could get caught. If you get sick early, okay, then you're caught. But two things. One is that obviously if we pre-fund it, the full amount for what isn't used, then of course we have the right to roll that back into the next year, correct, Judge?
right.
Around March, whenever they give final closeout of the existing current year, they actually allow 3 months submission or spend down submission of bills. In other words, they can't incur any more 2014 expenses against 2013, but they have a couple of months to submit all their 2013 bills for final closeout of that Benny year balance.
Second question, do we have the full amount of that budgeted for this fiscal year, or is that part this year and part?
We've got it all.
As we do.
Yeah, we've got it all budgeted for this.
Health insurance line item.
It is.
It's included in that. But we'll roll forward in the past 2 years about 43%, 40% or something like that.
Right.
So we have something budgeted after July in the fiscal year.
We've already got it for this year. It's
in July though, isn't it?
Yeah, just
our fiscal year's from July to June. July to July. So
we pay it in December, then we pay again in June. So we pay
right.
2 times in the fiscal year.
Right.
Okay. So we actually.
I just think it would help. It would help all of our county employees.
July, is it? Is there enough to cover in the budget after July?
Yes, sir.
Yes, because we pay in December and we pay in June.
So we pay, we've got it built in because we pay early to prepay. I see what you're saying.
It's just going to help all the county employees that, that's not making a lot of money and they're facing a crisis in their life.
Talking about me like that.
The plan year starts really for the whole 2014 in January.
Right.
So technically, they're only going to qualify for the amount that's going to be available to them in calendar year 2014 anyway, 2014.
But the only thing with when we pay in June, we know what the previous year's rollover is going to be. So what we pay in June is not, near as much.
It's not as affected though, and when we pay that amount is paid regardless. So whether we pay it now, whether we pay it, it's going to be pretty much the same. I just think it would help the.
We wouldn't see if we paid it before. We wouldn't see the effect of the rollover until
December. December, right?
Yeah,
I just think
and of course, the other side of that is that so what we technically would do would give them the full amount of the Benny card usage before they have to come out with anything out of their pocket per our policy. On the other side of that is if we don't, if it's an individual, I think what's the most out of pocket for an individual? $1,000. So they got you have to come up with $1,000.
Well, they have to come up with the other part with the Benny's not covered, right?
Well, it depends. Yeah, I mean, if it's an authorized expense, then it goes toward that deductible. So, you can cover it out of that. So, if I go to the pharmacy and it's covered, if I go to the doctor and it's covered, and I pay it out of my pocket, I turn those receipts in and I get credit toward that $1,000.
But that's after June. I'm just saying if one of our employees is in financial trouble and they're going through a crisis like this. I mean, you know, he's come down with something that, you know, he's not gonna be able to meet that whole deductible. And you're gonna have some people let you make payments on it, and then you've got some doctors that said, no, we're not going to, you know.
One of the issues that y'all talked about before is if you fund the entire amount, and someone's here for 2 months, they spend it all.
Well, see that, and that's the only catch. You know, it's
the only one, right.
It's a catch. It's danged if you do, danged if you don't, because obviously you want to help the employees do all you can, as I think we have by approving this policy that we're providing, which is a tremendous policy. But the second portion of that is that if we do that, then technically we are funding a full year in advance of a policy, and you're correct. If an employee is here through June, or through March or April or February, you know, then.
But is that really likely to happen? How many times have that happened? I mean,
how many times does it happen on the other side too?
Yeah, I'm wondering the same way, both sides there.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, you can't cover everything either way.
I just think, though, if you got an employee
you're
that's
saying.
struggling, it's hard for them to come up with the remainder of that balance. I mean, I know you guys talk to them as well. I mean, and I've talked to several they've had a crisis in their life, and, you know, it's hard for them to come up with the remainder of that when we know intentional that we're gonna give that at the end of June.
I guess in effect, you're saying that if I go to the hospital and tell them I'm gonna get another $1,500 in July, they're not gonna turn me over to collection agency if I tell them it's gonna happen in July, are they? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know how many people
Absolutely.
actually are tapped out of it or not fundable or not, I mean, we have $2,500, $5,000 deductible.
Right.
Employee gets $1,500 provided by the county for that Benny card. The last 3 years, of course, we paid $105, I think, in 2010, $114. I mean, it's gone up because our employee numbers have gone up a little bit. Our submission in January, the last two, or in late December, has increased by about $5,000 or $6,000, and we're not by far funding the full year amount typically when we fund that first half.
Right, it also helps you manage, the other side of that is, from a management structure, is that by not, and I'm just stating, but by not providing all of it at once, the fact is that those individuals who have that policy are fortunate enough to be a part of that policy, understand they have to manage their health care a little bit better as well. Now, I agree, their circumstance happened, and, you know, you can't manage if you find out you've got something bad or whatever. But it does, overall, I will say this, and I think that's the other side, is that if by the way we do it now, that's why you see at the end of the year, people, the return where we're at because of the management of it.
If we give it all
Take that
early,
out of it, you're going to, I'd say by the end of the year, you're going to see a different
the
number.
return will be much less.
Well, what about this? I mean, fortunately, we haven't had very many employees that have had an extreme catastrophic illness that we knew first of the year that it's going to happen, and they're going to incur this. But if we had a specific employee that we knew was going to face catastrophic financial crisis, I mean, all he's ever going to be out of is $1,000 out of pocket if we do fund his Benny card $1,500. So, I mean, he's going to meet his $2,500 deductible maybe in the first month, first week of January, if he's going to go through surgery or treatment here pretty quick. So, I mean, that would take care of his obligation for the rest of the year, and he'd be done, or she'd be done. If we knew, and with HIPAA, we can't really get into individuals necessarily, but if we know and want to take care of an employee, we could have a plan where if we knew an employee was going to incur that type of early on major treatment, we could go ahead and fully fund one or two individuals I think without violating our overall general policy.
I just think it would help the employee out.
Let me ask you this. I think, and I've thought that as well myself before, and I think there's a great credence to what your statement is in regards to trying to help out. And, you know, $1,000 is a whole lot of money to most of us, okay? I mean, you know, but let me say this. Would it be okay with you guys because I'd like to look and see what some other counties do, and so, because we're not the only one. I'd like to see us come up with an answer to be able to help, but that would be it would be an inform, as opposed to just making a decision right now, but it would
Okay.
be kind of research it and see.
I'm good.
And get a good answer that's going to make sense for all of us, you
Gotta be
know, from the
consistent.
business side, obviously, as well as the personal side.
Yeah, I'm
Are y'all
good.
with-
Yes,
y'all
sir, I'm
with
good with that. I just,
I'm
we
good
can,
with that.
we can do it in January if we decided to do it,
If
or,
we start, because everybody's got an emergency, okay? So,
well, I think
let's see what everybody else does, and I want to help everybody, but
I just think our max.
so much.
Put my name in first, though.
Okay, so I guess technically, pre-funding the first half of the plan year was the proposed motion,
Right.
and that's been the traditional policy.
That's
Even though
correct.
we may decide to
Right.
do something different or
Yeah,
additional to that.
hopefully by the next court meeting, we can have some kind of resolution or some kind of plan or thought process, see what we can do.
Did you get a second or what?
Second.
Okay.
Use
I
motion.
didn't even get a first.
Oh, motion.
Okay, I have a motion, and we have a second.
Mr. Elder?
Yes.
Mr. Smothers?
Yes.
Mr. Wicker? Mr. Caldwell?
Yes.
Mr. Masterson?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay, and that wraps up pretty much the old business. Going back to the payment of bills,
Some indulgence from the court to allow me to use some fiscal court project money to give Laura a head start $700. If you guys would allow me to do that.
It's motion.
Second.
Yes.
Mr. Elder?
Yes.
Mr. Wicker? Mr. Caldwell?
Yes.
Mr. Masterson?
Yes,
Unanimous.
thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Also, if you guys would, we talked about we put in the budget 2 community projects for St. Joe. St. Joe is owned by the Marion County Fiscal Court, Inc. I would like to, if you guys would allow us to take $15,000, pay that remainder off, and take that out of line item 9100-718, which we already have in the budget. I'd like it to be a motion, please. Were you going to take that $15,000 off of line item 9100-718?
We'd allocated, correct me if I'm right, we'd allocated, was it 30,000 in the budget?
Yes, sir,
And what was that 30,000 previously for?
for the projects that they have going on,
Okay.
we actually put 2 projects
Two
in
right.
at $60,000,
30 each.
and I can't remember what the other project
It was
was.
for Mr. Masterson.
I can.
I can too.
Oh, there you go.
Down the road,
Right,
okay.
it was.
Let's be sure we leave there nice and,
Hey, as long as we keep that other 30 in there, right, Master? All right.
Depleting 15 of that,
Yes, sir.
okay.
Second.
Smothers?
Yes.
Mr. Elder? Mr. Elder?
Yes.
Mr. Wicker?
Yeah.
Mr. Caldwell?
Yes.
Mr. Masterson?
yes.
Unanimous.
Anybody else?
Oh, go ahead.
Something related to Karen about budget, were there issues with the budget?
No, I think that we just got it today, is that, so?
It's just a procedure in this court. We get it one time and we got 2
Review
weeks to
it.
look at it.
Yeah.
That's
We
all.
got the sheriff's meeting before, and Karen brought us up Monday or Tuesday, so our policy's been that we, the only thing that
I think the only question, well, go ahead, Judge, what was it?
the only thing that I had noted in comparison was amount that she had in for deputies and assistants increased by 8.4%. And if she's going to hire additional staff because of the realignment and the precincts, you know, I assume that that's probably what she's estimating the.
That's insurance, retirement.
Oh, yeah, that went up 13.7%, and she does make her HRA reimbursement, so it's probably well within line. Because the fringe benefits are all figured into that too, aren't they?
We'll look at it.
So I'd say it's pretty reflective of her increased costs.
And that's one part of the budget that can't be, it has to be, once it hits that number, it cannot go over.
That's correct.
Submitted this and requested this with the state.
I got a,
How much insurance is gonna go up?
Well, that's a good explanation, because I know that they do reimburse for their HRA and their insurance costs, and so and all those did go up 13.7% or whatever we finally got it back down to, so.
I got one quick question. I forgot earlier, on the yearly garbage bills, you know, when we raised our rate, I had a couple people ask me, like, they pay the yearly, I'll have to get the.
Yes, the annual,
specific-
they get a
annual
month free.
Month free. Well, when we raised the rates, then they got a bill for that they owed more money or something.
What happened in that case, and if they paid any time besides when the rate was actually enacted, it started sucking out $14 a month rather than 12, so it actually in 6 months it had pulled an extra month out because their pool of money they had on deposit did not last a full year. In other words, when they paid for the year, they paid at the lower rate, and then it started coming out at the higher rate, so they depleted it faster than a year.
So
And we've explained that to them as they come in to renew.
Well, somebody asked me and I couldn't, but they stole that extra, even though they paid for the year, that was at the old rate. And when the,
When someone pays, what we do is we put the money in and they have that fixed credit.
Okay.
But every month we print a bill, it used to be printed $12 would come off, and now $14 will start to come off.
so it depletes it.
That makes
So about a month early, if they didn't do it right at the anniversary of our increased implementation. So, I mean, anybody that renewed before we went live with the new rate is going to get a little depletion of our
Bill,
The
basically.
bill,
Or-
they'll get the bill a month earlier.
Okay, that was his question, because he thought he paid for a year and he got his bill earlier, but that's why.
We delayed actually passing the increase along for 6 months. We ate the first 6 months of increased charges from Nelson County, and then we put that in the start of I guess it really went out with the end of the year, or end of January bill be a year in January, so.
Okay.
Motion to pay the bills with or without the
I'm sorry, I had one question. There was on Marion County Conservation District 12-5, was that?
That's their quarterly payments.
That's the quarterly payment.
We pay them $50,000 a year right now.
Oh, right, uh-huh. Okay. And then the Kenway janitor, it was a 2706 AOC, was that a service?
Yeah, that's the cleaning service.
That's their monthly cleaning charge.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
You did have one additional bill, did you guys see that for?
Y'all see that for the meal upstairs?
Yes.
That bill's with it.
Motion to pay the bills with the additions.
Second?
Okay.
Mr. Masterson?
Yes.
Mr. Elder?
Yes.
Mr. Wicker?
Yes.
Mr. Smothers?
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell?
Yes.
One last thing, Merry Christmas to all my colleagues, Mr. Mangley, Mr. Lagan, young lady, Kevin, Judge. Thank you, it's been enjoyable.
Merry Christmas.
MTA.
Happy New Year.